G'day guys, welcome back to the SuperCoach stock market video. It's our first one for... G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach for DR and welcome to the round one stock market video for 2024. Stoked to be here, really excited to get into this one now. You obviously noticed that you can't see me on the screen. I'm having a few camera issues at the moment, but you don't need to see my mug there. You are here to find out which players we should be trading in, trading out, or at least keeping on the watch list for now. We are only focusing on the 6 teams. They're the round 0 teams. We are excluding Brisbane and Carlton from this one because obviously they've got the bye this week and their prices will not rise yet. So hope you enjoy, guys. We're going to keep the intro short. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for being here. Hope you enjoy. Let's get into it, guys. Let's crack in. At the top of the list this week, we've got 4 pods and one of the highest owned players in the comp in King Nick. Quickly on Nick, I'm lucky I came to my senses and started him after initially planning to fade. He's a must own, it's as simple as that. And if you're planning on picking him up cheaper, then that plan may not come to fruition early. He looks really good without looking absolutely fantastic, which leads me to believe that his ceiling could rise even further once he warms up into the season. Not a lot of discussion needed, as I said, just get him in because he's one of the worst anti-pods in the game. Vlostone, he's been intercepting well, leading the Tigers for kick-ins. Short is second behind him, so some nice bonus points for both. A 118 and a 134 is awesome for Vlostone, and he's kicking the ball a lot, 18 and 17 last week. He was also aided by 4 free kicks, but also increased his tackle count to 6 last week. Massive pod with a current ownership of 0.4%. So if you're a lone wolf, I think he's your man. I don't have the marbles to go there myself, though. After a big 130 against the Suns, Shorty only pushed out an 88 in his second game. Didn't look great, to be honest, to my eye. I thought he was lucky to get to that. One thing you do get with Short is a fantastic kick-to-handball ratio. Just too many clangers last week. If you missed out on, say, a Sheasel, I think this is an easy swap. You could keep the faith, but the gap between his best and his worst is big. You could at least hold because his price shouldn't fluctuate too much, at least for this week. But you may have pressing needs. I think it's okay, but if you want to get him out, again, I wouldn't blame you. Will Power, another pod, and he's the main man on kicking duties at the Suns. Really rate this bloke as a player. Love the way he goes about it. Super courageous. Not afraid to put his body on the line. 1.8% of coaches would be really happy with his output. A 123 and a 118 is great. Also consistent. Only the 21 touches for his 118 last week, and I think that's actually a good sign for mine because it shows he doesn't necessarily need a lot of the peel to score well. Again, I'm not going there myself, but another lone wolf move if you think this scoring continues. And Lockie Whitfield, causes man, has had a decent start to the year playing down back with what I think is his best role, a 108 and a 118 to open. Finding a heap of the pill, also averaging 12 marks, which would certainly boost his fantasy score anyway. Don't know if we'll be able to keep that up. Durability, that's always a concern, like his teammate Jelly, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But the talent is undeniable. We've seen premium numbers in this role before. Definitely a pod to consider if you trust him, but he's got a lot of competition, doesn't he, for a top 8 average in defence this year. Currently selected in 8% of sides, and those coaches, like my man Causa, the ladies' man Blackledge, would be pretty happy with what he's produced so far. On to the defenders, 250 to 500k. As you can see from the symbols here, I'm not a fan of trading in any of these selections. Maynard, he's had a solid start to the season, 93, then a 131 against the Bloods, averaged 5 tackles per game, has an insane kick-to-handball ratio. In the last 2 weeks, he's had a total of 35 kicks and only the 3 handballs, but shouldn't be too relevant in my opinion going forward. May has a monopoly on the kick-outs as expected. You can see from the symbol there, 115, 103. Playing the Hawks this week, it looks tempting, but we've got so many potential defensive options this year. I think I'd just go elsewhere. Salem did lead all Melbourne midfielders for CBAs at 76% last week, which really surprised me, but given the fact he's still over 10 points from averaging triple figures in that role, I think he should remain a pod for now. Buderick comes at an awkward price, although a few were keen on him in the pre-season. A dud score and a decent score means it doesn't really fill with great confidence in regards to consistency. Will that be there? I'm not too sure. It's always frustrating for coaches with those roller coaster type picks. You could even hold this week and possibly downgrade to Massimo next week. The Lizard is up there with certainly the most entertaining players to watch in the comp. Limbs flying everywhere, dodging, darting, linking up, creating plays. Wish he chose the Lions of the father's son, but a great fit for the Bloods again. Taking 9 kick-ins in total, which is the most for Sydney. A 117 and a 91 against decent opposition is good, and he would be a really fun own, but surely you'd just prefer to pay up, say, an extra 50k and, again, lock in a Shees type. Could be a solid premium one day, though. Himmelberg, I think we'll just wait. More of a luxury 7th premium type pick, I think, in 2024, rather than that on-field option. If you want to trade in a GWS defender, I think Lockie Whitfield is the man for mine. And Liam Baker is 100% a sell. Absolutely no point in holding him. The only positive this pick, I think anyway, is his DPP status. So either find the money to upgrade to a Heaney or Flanders type, who we'll talk about when we get to the forwards, or go down to a decent rookie mid-pricer, bank the coin for your next upgrade. Either way, time to let him go before his price potentially goes into freefall. On to the defenders under 250k. There is one obvious selection if you don't have him, and it's Blake Howes. A nice average of 78 after scoring 90 plus in the opening round, following that up with a 60 against the Dogs. He's got the lowest break even in the game, which makes him pretty much a must-have given his price tag and solid job security. Not much more needs to be said. Just make sure he's in your team this week. Charlie Dean, unfortunately, has been omitted, which many saw coming. The Pies' defence just hasn't been functioning well, and Dean has obviously been a casualty of that. Take him off your list for now. Bodie Uland is also a pass for me. Slightly higher price tag and averaging a tick under 50 just doesn't do enough for me, and there are so many other Gold Coast players that I would love to own. Marty Hoare didn't play in round 0, so we actually have another week to assess him before his price rises. Just want to make sure people are aware of that and don't really rush to get him in. Get the binoculars out and just watch this week. And poor old Josh Gibcus. Really feel for the young man, but unfortunately a must trade. He's out for the season, and I wish him all the best in his future recovery. On to the midfielders, 500k plus, and this is where a lot of the action is at this week. 3 out of the top 5 are Suns, and I think that's great to see. I'm someone that would really like to see Gold Coast go well and be a successful club, so I'll talk about all 3 quickly now. To be honest, I don't know which option I like the best. I wouldn't be surprised to see any one of these blokes finish as the highest averaging Suns mid. Real is the man that most people are talking about. We look back to his first 4 games of his career, and we shouldn't be surprised to see him punching out these numbers. Almost broke clearance records in the opening round with 20, falling, I think it was 2 short of Paul Salmon. Had 34 touches, 5 tackles to go along with that for a 137. Then he backs that up last week with a 155 against the Crom with 29 touches, 10 tackles, and a goal, if you don't mind. I'm seeing improvement in his spread, and we know that he's a contested animal. So, again, if he's working on that outside game, tick, tick, tick for his SuperCoach. The highest CBA rate for any Gold Coast player, sitting right on 80%. His captain, Took, the trademark Miller, has also gone off with a bang to start 2024, and looks like he could even get back to the 120 range average. Leads by example. The best two-way runner in the comp, gets from contest to contest, and is averaging just under 30 touches a game, 6.5 tackles. That's no surprise. The man has history as an elite scorer, and I see no reason why he can't reach at least similar heights again. A 116 and a 137 is fantastic. He's got an identical CBA rate to his other mate in Mr. Anderson, and that's sitting right on 74%. Burnt a few that traded him in after banging score last year. This is Anderson, but he's also got all the tools to become an elite scorer if all things go right. A 122 and a 129 to open his campaign, and again, averaging 30 touches a game. The tackle count is nothing like his other two counterparts, but he's finding a lot of the appeal, and I find it hard to rate them, but I would probably have Anderson at third, just behind Real and Miller. It's an awkward situation knowing that you're paying up for a player that will miss the week after, but on a positive note, you do enjoy that likely early price rise that may put them out of reach for other coaches that don't decide to wait. We'll quickly go down close to the bottom with Jordan De Goey. He's the only Collingwood player here. Seems to be lacking some motivation at the moment. Even his ground ball gets, they're at an all-time low. And simply not having a real impact, was criticised for that little high five with Maynard. And to be honest, I'd just be selling now. Not because of the high five, but I'd just be selling now, cutting your losses. I'm sure he'll find form again and will put up some decent scores, but I question his consistency, and we'll just move on. The next man, Tom Green, he is an absolute beast, dominating the competition at the moment. A fantastic starting pick who is delivering in spades for his owners, and my original plan to flip him at his buy is most likely out the window because he looks likely to average enough to make it more beneficial just to hold through that buy. I'm going to call it early, and I hope I don't jinx this pick, but he is as close to a must-have midfielder as there is, averaging 33.5 touches, over 7 tackles, clearances, contested possessions, and he's even kicked a goal in both games, so impacting the scoreboard there too. There is nothing that he's not doing at the moment, and look, to be honest, he's the type of player that just has SuperCoach blood running through his veins. He'll be a midfield lock for a very long time. Coming up against the Eagles this week, I'm actually including him in my captaincy loop again. I got that VC score of 152 last week. Locked that away. Absolutely wrapped with that. And currently the scariest non-own, in my humble opinion. Really glad I stuck with my gut and selected this great man. Quickly, his teammate Josh Kelly, 97 and a 116 to his name, but nothing to write home about here, and being massively overshadowed by the Green Machine. Jack Viney, he trapped me a couple of seasons ago after a bit of a purple patch, so I've always been wary since then. We know what his strengths are, we know what he brings to the table every week. Obviously, again, overshadowed by his two superstar teammates, but he always puts his body on the line, helps his brothers in arms to walk taller. He was arguably Melbourne's best player in the opening round with a score of 138. That was from 30 touches, 7 tackles, and a couple of goals. Quieter last week with 93, just at 23 touches, 5 tackles, but did impact the scoreboard again, which was a positive. But for me, I think there are too many ahead of him for a top 10 midfield average. He is, though, the leading CBA mid for Melbourne with 74%, and that is 14% higher than the next man, Kristen Patraka. He's an ultra-professional, will always be on a watch list as a trade-in option. However, a 108 and a 119 doesn't make him a high priority in this point in time. 39 for CBAs, as we know, and we also know what he's capable of when playing up forward. Will he spend a little bit more time there? There's a high possibility, averaging 27.5 touches and a goal per game. And geez, I'll tell you what, I'm so happy to see Clary enjoying his footy again. That was an awesome post-game interview with Maxi. Put a smile on my face anyway. Some people have already put a cross through his name due to a range of reasons, which is fair enough, but I think that after his bye, he could be a very sneaky pod trading option. You know, this is a man with elite history, capable of averaging competition high numbers. He's already a SuperCoach Hall of Famer, and I'm hoping he's got many more years to come. He's got a 90 and a 105. Very modest numbers for him anyway, for his potential. But as his fitness and his off-field professionalism continues to build, I see his scores continuing to rise. So put him on your watch list and track him very, very closely, because we know that this man is absolute SuperCoach royalty. And the two Sydney boys in Warner and Errol, both fantastic players and a huge part of the Bloods' future. I managed to secure Warner in a keeper league with I think it was a 4th round pick, which I was absolutely stoked about. He's a super pod, only in 2.2% of sides, but the big question is, can he maintain a 120 average? I think it might be a bit of a stretch this year, but who knows? We know they've got midfield injuries. The big bonus here is that he's kicked 4 goals in 2 games and obviously really impacting the scoreboard. Again, can he keep that up? I'm not too sure. Consistent numbers in the high 20s for disposals as well. So, look, you could go there if you're looking for a real pod. I think it's probably a little bit risky though. I was closer to starting Errol, but I end up backing my gut, going with Green, one of the most talented players in the comp that will find form quickly, but due to his high break even, it's hard to trade him in. In saying that, he's got the potential to smash that on a good day, and the Swans have a scary good fixture in the next few weeks. As an owner, I wouldn't panic, but as a buyer, we simply wait, I think, pounce on him at hopefully a lower price. There's no guarantees that he goes that low though. That low round 0 score of 77, that'll be out of his system quickly. So if he produces, say, a 125 type score this week, he won't actually lose that much coin. So some very interesting options to choose from here. We know that they'll all face a bye in the very near future, but current form is hard to deny, and you may need to pull the trigger now. On to the mids, 250 to 500k, really nothing to see here, a trap and 2 passes. It's possible that I need to give a little bit more respect to the Fiorini pick. An average of 105 is impressive, but I'll be shocked if he managed to maintain anything like that. Too many other Gold Coast players on our watch list ahead of him, and you have heaps of options next week anyway that I think provide much more upside. Dow doesn't get enough of it, costs 50k more than your McKercher types in the midfield, so I'd much rather just even wait for a Bonner. And Jacob Hopper, he was a starter for me last year, but he's nowhere near on my radar at the moment, and at almost 440k, you would be beyond mad to go there as a buyer, so not a lot to talk about in this price range for now, but come next week, we'll be presented with some much more attractive options. And we'll finish off the midfield section by looking at a couple of rookies under 250k. We've got Matty Roberts, who's performed really well, doing their job at his price, taken over from the Seagull, who's pushed further up the ground at times. Second in line for kick-ins with 6 in total, which is a nice little bonus. That certainly helps to raise that floor. I'm pegging him to score, say, between the 65 to 80 mark most weeks, and that will give us some nice cash gen as well as an on-field option, particularly during the buys. Certainly worth paying up the 33k over the man below him in Ware. Seems like a decent young player, but his job security still concerns me to a degree, and I don't think he's got the ceiling in his role to average, say, much higher than a 55. That may be enough for you, but I think there are just better options that we can wait on and have another week to reassess. Maybe look to hold if you own, flip to a Carroll after his buy. That would be the play I would be looking at personally. So a pretty bare cupboard this week, but again, next week, the cupboard will be full of tasty options to select. On to the big boys in the ruck, and at the top of the list we have Brodie Grundy. The Jekyll and Hyde pick looks $1 million, then looks like a cheap suit. The scoring pattern seems to be good, bad, so hopefully this week is good. I think it's really easy with Grundy. He'll make cash this week. We obviously then get another week of data, and then just reassess from there. You could even just hold until his buy, and then look to move either to a fallen ruck, or even just pay up, but pretty easy, I think, for this week anyway with Brodie. Darcy Cameron, pretty easy pass for me. Just don't see him competing with the big dogs for a top average. Maxi certainly had a down week in the opening round, but like he often does, responded like you'd expect from a captain and absolutely dominated. I was admittedly a little bit spooked by an injury rumour, but luckily stuck to my preseason research and gut and started him in my side. We were worried as owners about his break-even after the first game, but now it's most likely non-owners that may be worried about his break-even after his second game. Oh, how things can change in a week. Jared Witts should be a solid workhorse this year. Not a sexy pick, but he should be a pretty safe pick. But for now, we just observe, make a move if circumstances fall our way. And Big Kizza had a down week against Cherry and really did hurt his 2% of owners with a paltry 57. I've got him in a keeper league, so come on, Kizza. That score will be out of his system will be in his system for the next two, I won't say rises, most likely falls, and he could lose around 60k in 2 weeks. That's good news for non-owners. However, if you look at the owner's point of view, he does have West Coast as his next opponent. So a possible play with Big Kizza as a non-owner is to wait for Grundy to have his buy. Hopefully Kizza is at a much more affordable price, and he could look to flip, making sure that obviously he's in some pretty decent form. On to the forwards, 500k plus. Not pretty reading here, and straight off the bat, I just think we skip past these selections really quickly as trading options. Dusty, look, he's an all-time great, but his best days are past him. We'll still have some decent scores, I think, here and there, but I would certainly pass. Only played the 1 game, so don't really need to worry about getting him in now. Toby Green could actually get close to his break even this week if he catches fire. No way you look to bring him in, but owners have a big decision on their hands. You'd love to hold for this week's fixture, but be prepared to lose some cash next week. Then he has a bye, and then he plays some tougher opponents. Could be a sneaky downgrade to his mate Jesse Hogan. Could that be on the cards? We'll talk about Jesse when we get to our next lot of forwards. And Shea Bolton, I like to say Shy. I don't think it's right, but he was his X factor. But as I pre-warned last season and pre-season again, although his ceiling is huge, his floor is also low, and therefore his price will fluctuate heavily. And he's one that we can just bring in when he gets that lowest price point, if we're even interested by that stage. Now, on to the forwards, 250 to 500k, and I tell you what, we've got 4 really nice options to select from here, but very quickly, Callum Brown looks great. I picked him up late in a draft, and I think that's where he's best suited. Wouldn't go there in Classic, but he seems to have improved out of sight. Really good athlete and hitting the scoreboard. Has a massive leg on him as well. And Lipinski is a pretty easy pass. Looks fantastic some weeks and then a bit subpar the next. So in my opinion, not a really relevant option. Could be the steak knives in a draft deal though. Now let's talk about the 4 that I'm really interested in. First up is a potential quick flip that could net you 70k in 1 week, as well as a huge score to boot before heading into the bye. It's Jesse Hogan, and a few did flag him as a player to take advantage of that great fixture early, get some ceiling scores, and then move him on and run with the cash. And it's something that I'm contemplating even doing myself this week. It's a slightly risky move, and some may say it's burning 2 unnecessary trades, and they may be right, but in the opening round, he played against some decent opposition in the Pies before that easy matchup against the Roos. He followed up that nice 100 against Collingwood with a massive 165 last week, and that sees his break even fall right into the negatives, and that monster will be in his next 2 price cycles. He could give you the best of both worlds. The frustrating thing is that he's got the bye the week after, and then his fixture obviously becomes more difficult. It may be a case of already missing the boat, because most people view him as a quick flip rather than a keeper. It may be best to go to a Flanders type who you think can be a season-long keeper. Who knows, in this form, Jesse might be too. Personally, I'm looking to be aggressive early this year, and it's a move that does suit that strategy. There are pros, there are cons to doing this, and unlike many others, I am very much on the fence. For those that started, just sit back and enjoy the show, but as non-owners, we need to sort out our priorities and work out if this is a move that suits our style of play. I know personally, I have a lot to think about here. Next up is James Jordan, playing a nice role for the Bloods after coming across from the Ds. Played a decent game from an 81 against his old mob in round 1 and followed that up with an 84 last week. Job security is great. I don't mind his role. 35% CBA rate isn't massive, but it's enough for him to deliver, I think, consistent 80s with a chance of a ceiling score from time to time. A mature body that's had pretty much an immediate impact in his new team and has had a positive impact in my SuperCoach team, averaging over 18 touches and 5 tackles without posting huge numbers, doing what he needs to do at his price, a decent, I won't go into Fisher yet. We'll say a decent downgrade option for a Fisher type if you want to jump on that pick. Now, Sammy Flanders scared some off after his quiet outing in his first Pracky game, or in his last Pracky game, but he's come out with a bang in the regular season with a 124 and a 128, currently in 40.3% of sides, and those coaches would be happy to own him after picking up 26 touches against, let's just say, a poor Tigers midfield. He stepped that up, collected a lazy 35 against the Crom in wet and slippery conditions, and as we've already mentioned, the Suns have a tight CBA rotation of just the 4 players. Flanders is clearly that fourth cog, averaged 54% CBA rate in the first 2 matches, which seems like that could continue out throughout the season. Now, is that enough to allow this bloke to get regular 100 plus scores? Can 4 Suns mids actually average triple figures for the 1 year? I think it'll be a big ask, but I could see a world where it happens if they continue with the same tight mix. And it's working, so why change it? Dimmer told us to select him, and we should have listened. Sam Flanders, if you want to bring him in, I think that is A-OK. Now, it's a bit of a spew if you did miss stupid sexy Flanders, unless you faded him for an even sexier man, the 2024 Brownlow medalist, Isaac Keeney. Yes, I have called it, and what an own he has been for the first week. This is what we've been waiting for after all these years. Isaac the midfielder. I've been dreaming of Heaney so far, and there are no nightmares in sight. He'll have 6 votes on the board at the conclusion of round 2 this year, and looks every bit the elite midfielder of the comp. At first, I thought it was simply a short-term sugar hit that I would look to move on, possibly at his buy, but things have changed given the fact it seems like this role has a bit more life to it, even when some of these other stars return. The midfield move was even on the cards during the preseason, and this was before the injuries started to mount, and Horse said that himself. So maybe this mid move wasn't as reactionary to these injuries as I first thought. Wherever he plays, he is Sydney's most dangerous and influential player, whether that be up forward or running through the centre. He's been their highest CBA mid, just ahead of Chad Warner, and whilst I do expect that to drop during the season, for now he's their number 1 man, and I think it's time for everyone else just to jump on the train before it exits the station at lightning speed. He's doing everything. Find the ball with ease, tackling well, hitting the scoreboard. He looks $1,000,000. Scores of 144 and 136. I think are a real true reflection of his current form and show why we've been screaming for this move into the guts for Henny for years. And even if he's burnt you before, I implore you to give him a second chance, because if you don't own him, watching Sydney games could be unbearable. And we'll finish off with the forwards under 250k. Up the top, we have Tommy Berry. This Berry is certainly right for the picking this week, and I'm pleasantly surprised at how strong his start to 2024 has been. Now, I'm a massive fan of him. Dimmer's a massive fan, as we know, and we do know what Tommy brings to the table. Hard as a cat's head, pressure, pressure, pressure. A team first player who'll play any role for the coach. He isn't the cleanest or the silkiest player, but he gives 100% each and every week. A real workhorse. You know that he was an ex-Lion, a massive soft spot I have for him. He'll make some quick cash and give you, a quick 100, 150k. The fact that his score was 100 plus last week, that will be in his system for the next 2 price cycles. So you do have to wait for that second price rise due to that buy, so another week there. But I really like this play. The issue is that if you're already running too many Gold Coast or GWS players, it may be a little bit too difficult come these buys. You could possibly skip and go your Dempsey, or some may say why not both. He's got a bit of a tougher run coming up, but if you're willing to hold for an extra couple of weeks, his fixture opens up again, which may positively impact his scoring. I can see a lot of coaches bringing him in this week, and I think it's a fine move. Alex Sexton, doing his job as a rookie, but not the real sexy on-field pick that we were hoping for. My expectations have been a little bit high possibly after that massive breaking match score, but the role's there, the job's safe, and I think the ceiling game is right around the corner. Aaron Cadman looking bigger, stronger, more confident this year, and that's what we're expecting from the former number one pick, Keith Ford. The big lads take a little bit longer to develop, but I'm liking his progress. Only the 8 touches, but did kick 2 goals and had a couple of nice contested marks coming up against West Coast this week. I'm hoping he can go another 70 plus, deliver us a nice price rise. I think he's good for 150k plus, but I do expect his scoring to go down a little bit when he faces some tougher opponents. In saying that, a score of 50 odd against the Pies is all good. Not one you need to rush into trade, with Berry as another option, but if you want to get him in, I'm fine with that. Seth Campbell looked great in the opening round, but a little bit quieter last week. Given his role, the fact that the Tigers may struggle this year, I think it's a pass. Just the 21 SuperCoach points from 13 touches. Did kick a goal, but disposal efficiency let him down, only going at 46%. 7 clangers, that's going to bring down your score. So if you start him, it's all good, but if you didn't, no need to bring him in. Caleb Windsor, what a talented player, super player. I think the Ds have a ripper on their hands here. More of an outside type that will enjoy roaming around the wings at the MCG, much more than the SCG where he played in the opening round. In saying that, 9 of his possessions were contested, which I was pretty impressed with. 72 points from 16 touches, only 68% efficiency, so I think there's meat on the bone there because he is a better user than that. The main issue here is that he was subbed off, purely tactical. It may have been to simply manage the young man's minutes. I don't think there was anything sinister here. In saying that, the fact that he was subbed off is a slight concern, and we may be just a little bit paranoid starting him in on field. The positive is that he scored 70 plus in just 63% TOG. Seems like the better pick out of him and Lazaro. So if you started him, well done. Harvey Thomas, I'm going to nickname this guy Norman. So Norm scored 45 points from 77% time on ground. We know what his role is. It's really hard to score consistently as a small forward, but he's cheap, has DPP status, has stayed away from the sub-vest so far. That's got to be a positive. I'm not sure about his job security, so probably a pass for me as we have many other options this week. And last on the list this week is Jack Billings. I tell you what, a week is a long time in footy and a very popular preseason pick. Billings has gone basically from zero to hero. After starting as a sub in the opening round, scoring just 11 SuperCoach points, Jack started in the 22 and had a ripping performance. 23 touches, 20 of those kicks, lovely ratio there at 73% efficiency, had 15 marks, laid 5 tackles, kicked a snag, a real all-round performance, and suddenly he has rocked into calculations to enter our side. The good thing is that his low score of 11 will be out of his system after the first rise, but his 119, well, that will be in his system for the next 2 rises. So personally, I'm looking to bring him in this week and free up some cash and looking to probably spend that next week. His break even will be even better looking in to the week after. So I think that you should highly consider Mr. Billings. The risk is that if form drops, he could be relegated to the sub again, but I believe in his talent, as does Track. So most likely will be in my side. Get him in like Flynn this week. So that's it for now, guys. All the best of luck with your trade ins and your trade outs for this week, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.